Hi, Tamaria. I've just looked over your exam and I noticed a couple of things. You had some negative signs missing in your answer, so you got a positive answer when it should have been negative. The actual number was correct. Also, when it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, your intervals should have brackets. If it's greater than or less than without the equal part, you should have parentheses, and then you were doing the infinities correctly. They should be at parentheses also. And then one last thing, if you have an absolute value less than or equal to, say, a positive number, then your answer is going to be an interval that is contained, and it will look something like this on a number line. However, if you have, and it doesn't matter what's in here, it will still look like that. But if you have something greater than or equal to a positive number, then that's going to look like this, where you have a disjointed interval. And that's because absolute values represent distances. It's the distance from zero that something is. So if this absolute value is a distance of 4 units or less from zero, then you would either go 4 units in this direction or 4 units in this direction. But if it's greater than 4 units from zero, you would go your 4 units from zero, and you would move outward away from it in both directions. So in the second case, your interval is going to be negative infinity to negative 4, union 4, well, in this case we're having brackets where the 4's are, 4 to infinity, and in this case it would be negative 4 to 4. So I just wanted to give you those heads up, and we can go ahead and look specifically at some of the problems you did not do correctly. In this problem, you answered that it was going to be not 3/4. Your answer is 3/4 of the problem given, and I've changed the problem. But anyway, something like 3/4 to infinity. And there are two problems with this. First of all, you're talking about a distance that is less than or equal to 2 units from zero. So on a number line, here's 0, here's 2 units, but this is also 2 units in the negative directions, and so the distance will either be here or here, but it'll be less than or equal to 2, whatever that distance is. So your answer should look like this. It won't be exactly this. This distance is 5 minus 3x, and we don't know what x is yet, but it will look like this. So it couldn't look like, it could not have an infinity on it. And then the other problem is that a parentheses by the 3/4 could not be accurate because you have an equal component in this lesson. It's less than or equal to, so this should be brackets. Let's go ahead and solve this correctly. You have a distance of 2 units or less from 0. That means in the positive direction, 5 minus 3x is less than or equal to 2 units. And in the negative direction, the distance 5 minus 3x is going to be greater than or equal to negative 2 units. So as we solve this, we subtract 5 from both sides, and then we divide by negative 3, and that reverses, because it's a negative number, it reverses the direction of the inequality, so we're left with x is greater than or equal to positive 1. In the other situation, we subtract 5 from both sides, and we get negative 3x is greater than or equal to negative 7. Divide by negative 3, and that reverses the inequality. And then we have x is less than or equal to 7/3. So our answer is x is greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 7/3. They show you various number lines, and they're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. So you need to convert this 7/3 to an improper or to a mixed number, and that would be 2 and 1/3, so that you know that's going to fall around this area right there. So x is less than or equal to 7/3, which is 2 1/3, and greater than or equal to 1. That means that we have greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 7/3. And that's what our interval is going to look like. And so written in interval notation, once we draw our number line, we can just look at it and write 1 to 3 with brackets. So it's a good idea to draw your number line first so you can visualize it, even though they ask it in the opposite order, and then write your interval after you've drawn it. This is a reminder that a contradiction is an equation that has no solutions. When you solve it, you'll get something that makes no sense, such as 3 equals negative 2. A conditional has one solution, such as x equals 4. An identity means all solutions will work, such as your answer will be like 0 equals 0 or 3 equals 3. So here's an example of a problem you might be called on to solve. You work from the inside out, and you start with the inner parentheses, which are negative 3x minus 6. You could pull a negative out, or you could leave it as it is and distribute this 5 that's in front of it. Before you distribute the 5, you want to change this subtraction to be addition by changing the sign of the number from positive 5 to negative 5 and drawing a line through the subtraction sign to make it addition. So change the sign, add a line is the rhyme for it. So now, to be careful with negatives, you write 4 times 9 plus, and then you have negative 5, negative 3x, plus negative 5, negative 6. And I won't mess with the right side yet because that is all done. So I'm going to just put this. And so let's simplify what's inside the parentheses. We have 9 plus, and negative 5 times negative 3x is positive 15x, and negative 5 times negative 6 is positive 30. So now we just combine the 9 and 30, and we get 39 plus 15x inside the parentheses equals, and now we'll go ahead and write what was on the other side. 39 times 4 is 156, and 15 times 4 is 60x. Now notice that we have exactly the same thing on both sides of the equation. If we subtract 156, we get 60x equals 60x, and if we then subtract 60x from both sides, we get 0 equals 0. And so if you look back at the top, I'll make it a little bit bigger. You can see that we have the identity. All solutions work such as 0 equals 0. We could have known it was an identity at this point when this side was exactly the same as this side. So the answer is identity. And you put that the answer was a contradiction. In the next problem, you had an an absolute value such as 2x minus 6. The absolute value of that is less than or equal to 10. And you found the numbers correctly. And so I went ahead and did that part. Once you found the correct numbers, however, you didn't handle them correctly. And so this is again why I advise drawing it first. So if we graph these things, we know that absolute value up here is a distance, and it's going to be less than or equal to 10 units from 0. So you're going to have some distance that is less than or equal to a certain distance from 0. That means you're going to have this situation where, 0 is somewhere in here. We don't know where. It may not even be in here, but the 2x minus 6 would be this situation. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this situation, and we see that x is less than or equal to 8 and greater than or equal to negative 2. So that means our solution set in here looks like this. And after graphing it, we can then go ahead, let me reduce these. We can then go ahead and write the interval just like we see it in the graph from left to right, negative 2 to 8. Okay, your answer was negative infinity to negative 2 union with 8, which I forgot that bracket, to infinity. So you got the numbers right, but you had two things wrong. The first thing you had wrong was you had the wrong kind of interval. This is not a disjointed interval. It would have to be greater than or equal to have this situation. The second thing you got wrong is you had a less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, so they had equal components, so you needed brackets, not parentheses. In this one, I think you just made a math error. You have 3y plus 3 equals 9, or 3y plus 3 equals negative 9. So we subtract 3 from both sides, and then we divide by 3. Actually, I'm not sure how you got it. So the solution set would not be an interval. It would just be a group of numbers, and those numbers would be 2 and negative 4 in any order. Your answer was, let me put it in a different color, 0 and negative 4. So somehow over here you ended up with y equals 0, and so that's not correct. Okay, in this problem, the absolute value of m plus 6 plus 10 equals 33. I worked it out so you didn't have to wait for me to write because you got most of this correct. You subtracted 10 from both sides, and then you set up your two cases, and then you got the numbers 17 and negative 29. But then you did not plot them. If you had plotted them, negative 29 would be on the left and 17 would be on the right, and since it's greater than negative 29 and less than 17, you would know that this is your interval. You would know it looks like that already because you have a less than or equal to distance, so it's going to be contained like this. So the correct answer in this case would be negative 29. Looking at the number line, you write what's on the left, and 17. Okay, here's what your answer was. I don't know if you drew a number line or not, or if you just stopped at this point here, but you wrote 17, negative 29. So there are two things wrong with that answer. First of all, it isn't going from 17 to negative 29. So you have to go from left to right on a number line. Negative 29 is on the left and 17 is on the right. And the other problem is, again, the parentheses. When you have greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, you need brackets rather than parentheses. This is one that you just missed, and I don't know what happened. So let's go ahead and solve it. We simplify the parentheses first by distributing the 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 3 is 18. And so we have 31y minus 18 is greater than or equal to y. Let's subtract the y and get it all on the left side. And we have 30y minus 18 is greater than or equal to 0. And then we're going to add 18 to both sides. And that gives us 30y is greater than or equal to 18. And then we divide both sides by 30 to get y by itself. And we get y is greater than or equal to 18 over 30. And then we reduce that by taking 6 out of the top and bottom. So 18 divided by 6 is 3, and 30 divided by 6 is 5. So we get y is greater than or equal to 3/5. So let's draw our number line. Negative infinity to infinity. We have 3/5. Y is going to be greater than or equal to, so we have a bracket, and it goes off to the right. That's what our number line looks like, and now we can write our interval looking at our number line. On the left we have a bracket, we have 3/5, and on the right we have infinity, and that always goes with parentheses. In this problem we have negative 5/11 x is greater than or equal to 12. And all we have to do is multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the fraction, and we can clear the fraction. So I multiplied both sides of the equation by negative 11/5 here and here. And when I did that, I changed my whole number to a fraction so I can multiply two fractions. And here you see the 11s cancel, the 5s cancel, and negative times a negative is positive. So we're left with x on the left is greater than or equal to, and then we just multiply. Well, first we see, can anything reduce here? Can the 5 go into either of these? In this case it cannot, so we just multiply the numerators and then the denominators, and then we're done. So x is greater than or equal to negative 1/32. So since it's greater than or equal to, our next job is to plot that, and we can choose any place on this graph to choose 1/32. And x is greater than or equal to, so we're going to have a bracket, and everything is going to go off to the right. So our graph will look like that, and from our graph we can write our interval, which is negative 1/32 on the left and infinity on the right. So that ends your review, Tamaria. If you wish to retake it, and I hope you do, I really think you need to, but what you need to do is study this review, and then make sure your exam review on MyLabs Plus is 95% or higher, and then take 3 practice tests. And if you pass those 3 practice tests, then I will reopen the exam for you. Good luck.